Despite his mother's intense fear of the animals, Shane Campbell-Staton was obsessed with reptiles from a young age, he says. Growing up in an urban setting in South Carolina, he didn't have much access to tide pools or forests where wildlife could be readily found. But what I did have was TV, Campbell-Staton says, crediting hosts such as Steve Irwin, Jeff Corwin, and Mark O'Shea with making the natural world accessible. Campbell-Staton and his sister were raised by their single mother, first in Connecticut and then in South Carolina, where he spent his formative years. When he was in high school, the family moved to upstate New York while his mom attended divinity school there. During his senior year, Campbell-Staton worked at a local reptile shop, caring for anoles, corn snakes, a red-tailed boa, and an iguana. He decided to attend the University of Rochester to pursue a degree in biology, but his college experience almost ended as soon as it began. Although he was eager to begin classes, that enthusiasm was challenged when a professor started discussing calculus formulas that included delta on the first day. He even completed an honors thesis, using mitochondrial DNA sequencing on shed skin to uncover the evolutionary origins of captive bearded dragons, Pogona vitticeps, whose native country of Australia has always had laws against exporting them. In Mozambique, Campbell-Staton investigates why some female African elephants, Loxodonta africana, are growing shorter tusks, perhaps in response to poaching pressure for their ivory. At Harvard, there was no single lab that could blend his love of reptiles with genomics, so he split his time between the labs of herpetologist Jonathan Losos and evolutionary biologist Scott Edwards, and undertook a thesis project that involved studying the evolution of thermal tolerance in green A. He spent his graduate career driving from Massachusetts to Texas to find out how the lizard's ability to withstand colder temperatures shifted across their entire range. During this time, he also became curious about how anoles' oxygen consumption varied in different climates. After he finished his PhD in 2015, Campbell-Staton joined Cheviron's group as a postdoctoral researcher just as the lab was moving to the University of Montana. In Puerto Rico, his team studies how crested anoles, Anolis cristatellus, are evolving in hot urban environments with few natural resources, while in Florida, the researchers probe how American alligator, Alligator mississippiensis, reproduction has changed in the face of endocrine-disrupting pollute. Farther afield, in Mozambique, Campbell-Staton is investigating an odd evolutionary quirk whereby some female African elephants, Loxodonta africana, are foregoing tusk growth, perhaps in response to selective pressure exerted by ivory poachers. He says he will continue with his current projects and expand his scope with new collaborators to find other ways that human activity may be affecting wildlife. A big part of our functional environment is actually abstract, he says, describing how political borders don't physically exist but can still have ecological outcomes. Decisions made by different governments have very real biological consequences, he says. Outside the lab, Campbell-Staton hosts the Biology of Superheroes podcast, which analyzes how science and science fiction intersect. He says the series was born out of a love of comic books he developed in grad school, and sociologist Hannah Landecker, who collaborated with Campbell-Staton at UCLA, says such a creative venture illustrates his personality well. Please support my channel to grow by pressing subscribe button and the bell icon. We will notify you technological news. Thank you.